Minister, the spate of deaths in the last few weeks, I mean, whether or not it's statistically important, significant or not is another matter, but certainly it's been high profile in the media. Is it time that more attention was paid to cycle safety? And if so, what areas do you think need to be looked at first?
Yeah, look, I think it is. They're dramatic. In fact, from 12-13 to 13-14, there was a doubling of the deaths of cyclists in New South Wales. Admittedly from a low base, but there was a doubling. And this year, it hasn't gone off as well. It's continuing that increase. That's alarming. Every accident is one that we want to try and stop, and every death is one that hurts families and hurts people.
But with that in mind, closer, okay. With that in mind, you made a fairly controversial suggestion a week or so ago. What was that, and why do you think it needs to be looked at?
Well, I didn't consider it controversial, I've got to say. I suggested that one of the things we need to examine is licensing for cyclists. With the large increase in deaths and injury of cyclists, I need to examine every possible means of protecting. And I'm not going to rule out looking at any particular one because some particular lobby group says we want the freedom to kill ourselves, we don't want you to examine that. I will not be bullied in that way because the key thing we need to do is to try and protect lives.
But most cycling groups say cycle licensing won't have any positive effect. It's just an administrative hassle for authorities and another deterrent to cycling generally, which will discourage people from cycling and therefore make cycling even more dangerous. Less bikes on the road, therefore those that remain on the road are at more risk.
Well, if that's the case, the report will come back and say that, but I'm not going to rule out an ability to protect people that are on cycles that are dying at the moment. These are fragile people without the ability of having a shell of a car around them. I want to put better rules in place to protect cyclists so more people can cycle and cycle safely. I don't want to rule out some possibility of saving some son, some daughter, some wife from death on a cycle. And that's why I've said to my guys we need to examine it. I also want to look at the Amy Gillett Foundation's idea of having a meter that matters. Now, with a meter matters, a meter between cyclists and cars, we need some ability to be able to enforce it. We have a licence for car drivers with demerit points. If they misbehave, we can apply it. But we have nothing with cyclists, and we have a small percentage, but a reasonably large number of cyclists at the moment that are breaking all the rules. So that's why I've said that we need to examine it. I'm not backing off on that.
That suggests, though, that it's the cyclist's fault, these injuries and deaths that have been, and had they been licensed...
Oh, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. The fact that we want to protect lives is not saying that it is the cyclist's fault. Now, my responsibility is to save lives and stop people being killed. I want an ability to be able to bring something in that works. I want an ability to be able to look at it, and that's all I've said. I want to look at it, and yet some sort of group are painting me as a fascist that just wants to save lives. Well, hello, just wake up yourselves, guys. Take a deep breath and realise that what we're about is looking at the best ways we could protect your lives. If what you say is correct and there's no validation to doing this, well, we'll rule it out.
Let's look at cycle helmets. There's a lot of evidence that one of the best things for cyclists is more cyclists. That's certainly been the evidence from London, where I'm from, for example. The number of cyclists on London's roads more than doubled. The number of deaths actually went down, and it's been put to so many cyclists on the road. One of the barriers cycle groups in Australia say to more people taking part in cycling is the compulsory helmet law. They say that means that a certain number of people either think cycling is more dangerous than it actually is because they are told they have to wear a helmet to go, or you lose the kind of impetuous cyclist, the spontaneous cyclist from the roads. And they say all those things combined actually make cycling in the whole more dangerous. So while no one's arguing that cycle helmets are good if you're in an accident, in the round, cycle helmets can be counterproductive, and that's why Australia's rules on cycle helmets haven't been picked up in other countries around the world. Would you look at addressing the that as an issue, and what do you make of that?
So is that an argument for me to say that people shouldn't wear seat belts in cars? Because that's the sort of logic that's been followed here. I've just been in Europe and I've seen a large number of people actually make their own choice about wearing helmets, and the majority of people are wearing helmets.
So why not give Australians that choice?
Why don't I give them the choice of saving their lives? Either wear a helmet or not ride a cycle.
But that's the point. Then they won't ride a cycle. Then you are
I've
putting...
saved their life.
Well, you could say people should be banned from driving because then no drivers will be killed.
But at the end of the day, I have the responsibility to the families and the friends of this people. You can suggest to me, but I'm the one that has to go home and lose sleep over this. I don't believe it is appropriate when we're looking with an increasing number of deaths on the roads to scale it back and remove helmets. I don't also believe that it's appropriate that we don't look at a system of licensing to be able to make people adhere to the rules, because we need to change the actions and the habits. And whilst it won't protect every life, if we have a system of rules that people know can be enforced, they will think about what they do on a particular day. And if we save a few lives, I think I've achieved something.
Your title is Minister for Roads and Freight.
Yeah.
Is that a reflection that perhaps other users of roads aren't as important as car drivers and trucks, for example? I mean,
no, that's rubbish.
Okay.
Every life. I wouldn't be arguing with you about helmets if lives didn't matter to me. Now, the fact is that putting proper safety in place for cyclists, I believe, is the best way to encourage people to cycle and to save lives. It's just a different point of view. If you want to go free willy, rage everywhere, have the Atticus run the world, that's fine. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to save lives.
But every other country in the world takes that approach, bar New Zealand, the United Arab Emirates and Australia when it comes to helmets.
We might be the ones that are right. They might be following us soon, and they may be saving more lives the same as we want it. But at the moment, we're looking at it in a proper manner. It isn't automatically going to happen. My ideas are not always taken up, but it is one that has huge community support, as well as the fact that it's an appropriate one for us to look at.
Finally, in the light of that death on Military Road, I think it was a fortnight ago, there was some suggestion, I don't know if it came from you or from elsewhere, but that cyclists be banned from main roads in peak hours. Is that something you'd be looking at?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a suggestion from me, and in fact, some of the cyclist groups pilloried me for that. I didn't say that at all. I said we need to examine how we apply cycling on roads. There is a major route in Sydney, Southern Cross Drive, which is the access to one of the best cycle routes in the state. It's a run from two of the biggest cities in the state, from Sydney to Wollongong. It's a beautiful ride and a lot of people do it. There have been some deaths on that road. We need to look at how we could do it better. And that's all I said on that. I don't believe we need to ban them, but we need to look at ways to protect lives.